Welcome back to the Arbitress YouTube channel. Today we'll be learning how to make this beautiful scissors neckline top. It's very simple to make and we'll be using a neat finishing techniques to achieve this. You can see we will turn it out neatly both on the neckline and on the side seam. It's very simple to make and I'm sure you enjoyed this tutorial. If this is what you would like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so to make this blouse you need your pattern like this. I've drafted my princess that bustier pattern. I have a detailed tutorial on how to draft this on the channel. If you don't know how to, you can check it out. Okay, so while drafting it, the only difference is that instead of just drafting it on a half scale bodies, I folded my pattern like this so that I can have a full scale body, because it will be extending to this part of the bodies. So now to trace, to replicate what I have, this half to the other half, I'm just going to be taking my tracing wheel now, and then I'm going to be using it to trace out everything that I have here. So once I trace it out, it will automatically transfer what I have here to the other part of my fabric. I hope you understand that. So I'm just going to trace this now, and once I finish tracing it, I'll see everything that I have here on the other side of my pattern. Okay, so I've traced it and I don't know if you can see it. It's just forming like a dotted line here, which is what I'm going to be tracing on this side so that I can have a full scale basic bodies. Okay, so using my tracing wheel, I've been able to trace out what I have here on this pattern also. So now I have my full scale body. The next thing is just to draft my scissors neckline on my pattern. Okay, so the first thing I'll be doing now, remember this is a basic neckline which is around 3 inches by 3 inches. If this basic neckline is okay for you, you can go with it, but I'll just be changing the neckline a bit. So here I'll be going inwards by ½ inch, just ½ inch. I don't want it too wide. So now I can redraw my neckline. Okay, so after that I'll decide the depth I want for my neckline. That's how deep you want it to be. Remember, we already took 3 inches, which is here, so I'll just add additional 2 inches or 3 inches to it. So if I'm adding let's say I'm adding 2½ inches, it will be around here, and I'll have 5 inches in total. So now I'm just going to connect my new neckline here to this new depth that I have using my curved ruler. Okay, so I have this. The next thing now is to get my shoulder. So because this is going to be like a sleeveless shoulder, like almost like a strap, I'm just going to go with like 2½ inches. It's fine for me. And the 2½ inches that I have here, I'm going to be measuring around, let's say 2½ inches also here at the center front here. This is the center front, remember the fold points here. Then using my ruler again, I'm going to connect these two together. Okay, so that forms my strap for my neckline. Okay, so now I have this. The next thing for me now is to connect from here to my armhole. So I'm just going to take my curved ruler again, and I'm going to connect from this place to my armhole. So now I'm almost through with my neckline. So here I'm just going to mark my center front downward so that we can see it well. Although I have a fold point there, I can see it well. So these are my patterns. Now I'm going to be cutting through these lines like this, and then I'm going to cut through this line also like this. So all this is no longer part of my pattern. Okay, so these are my new patterns. But another alteration you can do to this, if you want to add like an overlap to it, if you don't want to cut it at the center front here, you can just go out here by maybe 1, 2 or 3 inches. Then you connect this to this point again, but I'll be maintaining this straight line that I have here. So now the next thing for me now is to cut out my pattern. Now I'm cutting from here, then I'm going to connect it like this. Then I'll cut out my shoulder slope. Then I'm going to cut this out first. You can see that it is quite simple to do this. The main thing is just to get your bustier pattern ready, and once you have your bustier, it will be easy for you. And I have a detailed tutorial on how to draft this Princess Dart bustier, so if you don't know how to, you can check that out. Okay, so I have this. That's what I have this. So now the next thing is for me to close my pattern, then through it, or I'm just going to close it like this. Then I'll place a paper underneath it, then to through it if it's not rhyming. But what I have here is okay for me. I'm just going to close my dart. So these are our patterns. We don't need all these anymore. These are our two patterns, and I'll be cutting these on my fabric now on fold, so that I can cut for the other side also. And the back pattern remains the same. You just cut it like you cut your normal back pattern. The only thing is that you have to remember the alteration we did on this neckline, which is by going outwards by ½ inch away from the natural neckline that we have, and then you have to maintain the strap that you used for the front. Remember, we used around 2½ inches for this. So for your back neckline, after going out, you know that the strap that you're going to be using is 2½. Remember, you're going to be joining them together here, so it have to match. It has to be the same thing for you to be able to join them together like this. So there is no big deal about the back. The main thing is the front. So now I'm going to cut this on our fabric now, so that we can continue. Okay, so I've gone now to cut this on my fabric, and as you can see, I added the necessary allowance that I need to my pattern. Okay, so now this is the back bodies. Like I said, it's just a regular back bodies. So I cut 4 for each. I'm using double face fabric, so I cut 4. That's 2 for lining and 2 for main fabric, because I'm using this fabric as the lining also. So the next thing now is for me to join this together on the bustier part. But if you're to be doing it for a client and you want it padded, you can actually pad this area with your wadding, your bra cup, or whatever it is that you use to pad. Okay, you can use your breast pad or whatever it is that you want to use to pad it before you sew this. So now I'm going to detach this from the pattern, and I'll go ahead to sew this. And for the back panel, I'm just going to sew them together also, and then take my normal dart on the waistline. Then I'll bring it back to show us how we're going to assemble it. So I've joined them together on the bustier part now, and you can see they are together. So this is the first one, the second one. I remember I said I cut 4 so that I can neatly finish it. Remember, it's a sleeveless top, so I'm going to be using the lining to turn it out now. So now by turning it out, I'm just going to place them against each other like this. Then after placing it against each other, I'm going to sew it by the allowance that I left here, and then I'm going to sew it on the neckline also, up to the little armhole that I have here. So the only space that I'll be leaving is just the side and the hemline. So I'm going to do it for the 2 front pattern that I have. And for the back pattern, I already turned the neckline and the zipper area by sewing it, notching and turning it out. Then you take it to the ironing table. So I'll quickly do this now and bring it back to show us. Okay, so now I've sewn them together. The next thing is to notch it, then we will turn it out. Then we'll take it to the ironing table and give it a good press before we assemble them. So I've turned it out now So you should iron it properly if you're doing it for remember I'm just doing this for the purpose of the tutorial. So now the next thing, this is the first one, this is the second one. The next thing is to assemble them together like this. So it depends on how you want to fix it. Let's say you're fixing this to maybe a dress, a gown, or a jumpsuit. You can leave them independently like this and then fix them to each other. There are so many alterations you can do with this. Even on the center front, if you want it a bit opened, maybe at the waistline. So from your underbust area here, remember this is our underbust, at the center front here, this is the center front. You can just measure like 2 inches up to this place. Sorry, so on the center front here, from here you can just measure like 2 inches like this. Then you can connect it to your underbust area like this, so that by the time you cut it out like this, you will have like an open front here. So this area, instead of it being close together like this, it should just be opened a bit on this side. Then you turn it the same way we turn this. So there are so many variations you can do. You can leave it like this if you want the chest line to be opening on the front, but no, we will not be doing that. We're going to be closing this up. So to close it up, you can either just place this on each other a little bit and then top stitch on it like this neatly, or you can just fold it, which is what I think I'll be doing, like this. And then I'm going to be sewing on it very tiny, because I did not leave too much allowance. I didn't leave enough allowance. In your own case, you can leave enough allowance for this. So I'm going to be sewing it here tiny, so that by the time I turn it out, I'll have something like this. Then we'll sew it to the back, and then we're through with our blouse. So I've gone ahead to sew it like this. As you can see, it's very, I didn't take too much allowance. I just sew it very tiny. I tried to use a lemon thread so that we can see what I did here. Okay, and then I sew it. I close this like I'm closing a dart on this part, so that it will not be gapping. So now once I open it out, this is what I'm going to have, and you can see that it is neatly finished both inside and outside. So remember I said you should iron every step of the way. So now the next thing is for us to add our back panel to it. And to do this, I'm going to just place it like this so that it can fall in place for me, so that I won't make a mistake. So by arranging it, I'll know which one is for which side. So I have it like this now. Remember, we've turned the front part neatly. So the next thing for us now is to turn this back part on the shoulder and on the armhole area neatly, because it's not going to be having a sleeve. So to do this now, I'm just going to sandwich this. Remember, this belongs to this, so I'm going to sandwich this in between this, in between the back shoulder like this, by turning it like this. Then I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and sew. So after sewing it on the shoulder here like this, I'll just take the back armhole also together and then sew it on the armhole too. Then I'm going to turn it out so that I can have something neat. So I've sewn it on the shoulder like this. The front part is in between, as you can see, and then I had to sew the armhole area also, and I notched it. So once I turn it out now, everything will be neatly finished, both inside and outside. So this is what we have. Okay, so this is the back and this is the front part of our dress. So the next thing now to complete is to shape it on this side, and we want to sew it in a way that the side will also be neatly finished. And to do this, I'm just going to place the front part on the back like this, and I'm not going to sew it together just like this, just to conceal these rough edges. I'll open it up like this. So main fabric against main fabric, lining against lining like this, and then I'm going to use my seam allowance that I left to sew it here. So by the time I finish sewing it and I turn it, everything will be neatly finished also. Okay, so now it's all done. You can see these are the side seam, this is the other side seam, and you can see that everything has been neatly turned. It is neatly finished. So this is what our blouse is looking like now. You can add the peplum to this, you can make it a dress, you can make it as a jumpsuit. Whatever it is that you want to make this with is fine. So now you give this a good press, then I'm going to take it to the mannequin to show us what this is looking like. Okay, so this is what we have. I'll just take this to the mannequin to show us what it looks like. Okay, so this is our scissors neckline. I can see how lovely this is looking. It's very simple to make, and it is beginner friendly. So this is the crisscross pass of the neckline, this is the center fold, and this is our princess dart line. Okay, you can see how lovely this turned out. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you enjoyed this tutorial, kindly give this a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe to our channel if you haven't, share with your friends, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.